Meet Robert Mason, a 55-year-old tech defense CEO in San Diego, haunted by a past he never talks about. Years ago, in the chaos of Afghanistan, he lost a friend, a piece of his heart, and a Purple Heart medal that meant everything. Now, on a quiet highway shoulder, his car flat and his schedule packed, Robert is approached by a boy. No payment asked, no hesitation, just help. But what happens next shakes Robert to his core. The boy hands him something, an old medal. "I think this is yours," he whispers. As the sun sets behind them, Robert realizes this child may be more than a good Samaritan. He may be the key to an unfinished chapter. Why does the boy's family have this medal? Who is the mother he's protecting? And how far will Robert go to reclaim the life he thought he'd lost forever? In a story of buried truths, quiet heroism, and second chances, Robert must face the past, to build a future he never expected. Will they become a family? Or will secrets from the battlefield rip them apart again? Subscribe now to witness a journey of honor, redemption, and the legacy one soldier left behind. It had been one of those rare summer Saturdays in Chicago, sun high, wind light, and the streets alive with chatter and horns. Michael Reed sat in the back of a black Lincoln Navigator, eyes glazed over a spreadsheet on his tablet, mind numb from another board meeting that had bled too far into the weekend. His driver, Jerome, was chatting faintly through the Bluetooth, but Michael wasn't listening. Until he looked up. At the intersection of Lincoln and Armitage, just past the red brick bookstore and a line of potted sidewalk trees, stood a lemonade stand. Handmade, uneven. A crooked cardboard sign read in rainbow marker, "Ice Cold Lemonade, 50C, smile included." Behind it stood a girl, no more than 9. Long, honey-brown hair, skinny frame, bright yellow sundress. And that smile. Michael's breath caught. He leaned forward, tapping the window as if getting a closer look would make it less surreal. Because that smile, wide and lopsided, was his smile. "Jerome," he said slowly, eyes never leaving the girl, "pull over." The car eased to the curb. Michael stepped out, smoothing his blazer, suddenly hyper-aware of how out of place he must look in his $1,000 shoes and navy wool. The girl looked up. Her eyes met his, green, flecked with gold, and she smiled again. "Hi, mister," she chirped cheerfully. "Want to try the lemonade? It's fresh." Michael's throat tightened. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'll take one." She grabbed a plastic cup from a stack, her fingers careful, precise. Behind her, a folding table held a pitcher full of cloudy yellow liquid, a jar of sugar, and a single red thermos with a cracked lid. She poured, handed him the drink, and held out her palm. 50 cents, she said, with practiced professionalism. Michael chuckled faintly and pulled a $5 bill from his wallet. "Keep the change." She blinked, then grinned even wider. "Thank you. That's like 10 cups." He took a sip. It was tart, too sweet, with bits of lemon pulp floating at the top, but he barely tasted it. "What's your name?" he asked, voice gentle. "Lily," she said. "Lily Grace." Michael's heart skipped. Grace. That had been her mother's middle name. "I'm Michael," he offered, unsure why his voice cracked on the second syllable. "Nice to meet you." Lily nodded, then pointed to a worn lawn chair behind her. "You can sit, if you want. I'm waiting for my grandma to bring more ice." Michael hesitated. CEO of a multi-billion-dollar firm, crouching beside a lemonade stand on a street corner, but he lowered himself onto the edge of the chair. "Do you live nearby?" he asked. "Mm-hmm." She kicked her heels against the stand's leg. "Me and Grandma, and my mom, but she's been real sick lately. Grandma says she's fighting something big." Michael's chest tightened again. Before he could respond, Lily pointed to a small pink notebook on the table. "Want to see my drawings? I like sketching customers. Don't worry, I don't charge for the art." He smiled. "Sure." She opened the notebook, flipping through pages of crayon and pencil portraits. One was of a mailman, another of a dog walker, but the last one made Michael's breath stall. It was him, the suit, the shape of his jaw, even the scar near his left brow, faint but there. "You just drew this?" he asked. She nodded. "Yeah, you looked interesting." Michael looked down at the lemonade again, suddenly unsure what to do with his hands. His thoughts swirled with impossible questions. He stood slowly, handing back the cup. "Thank you, Lily." She tilted her head. "You okay, mister?" Michael smiled tightly. "Yeah, just needed a reminder of something." As he walked back to the car, he turned to glance at her again. She was humming now, drawing in her notebook, legs swinging. He opened the car door but didn't climb in. "Jerome," he said carefully, "get me a private investigator. Today. Quietly." Jerome raised a brow in the rear view mirror, but nodded. Michael got in, sat still, then looked down at the napkin in his hand. Lily had drawn a small sun on it, smiling face and all, with the words, "Thanks for stopping." He folded it gently and slid it into his jacket pocket, heart pounding, that smile, that scar, that name. He needed answers, and soon. The drawing Lily gave him was still in his pocket, folded gently like something sacred. Michael Reed sat in the back of his car again, staring at the address his assistant had quietly texted him. After 3 discreet phone calls and a brief investigation, he now knew Lily's full name. Lily Grace Carter. Lived on the south side of Chicago. Legal guardian, Susan Carter, age 71. And the mother, Emma Carter. That name hadn't passed through his thoughts in years without pain. As the car turned onto a quiet residential block lined with aging bungalows and cracked sidewalks, something in Michael's chest twisted. The street felt still, almost forgotten by time, peeling paint, tired gardens, and the sound of a distant lawnmower humming lazily. "Sir," Jerome said, slowing down, "number 1384. That's the one." Michael nodded silently. The house was modest. White, with sun-bleached yellow curtains in the windows and wind chimes that barely moved. On the porch, a woman sat in a wicker chair, her silver hair pulled back in a bun, a glass of iced tea beside her. She was reading a worn book, glasses sliding down her nose. Michael stepped out, straightening his jacket, then paused at the bottom of the steps. The woman looked up. Her eyes narrowed, then widened. She stood slowly. "Michael?" Her voice was cautious, uncertain, but laced with recognition. "Yes, ma'am," he said softly. "Susan Carter?" She nodded. "You've aged," she added, not unkindly. "So have you," he replied gently. They stood in silence a moment, wind rustling through the maple tree beside the porch. Then Susan motioned to the chair beside hers. "I'm guessing this isn't a coincidence," she said, sitting back down. "Lily's stand?" Michael took the seat slowly. "She looks just like me. I had to know." Susan studied him, her fingers tightening on the armrest. "She's got your smile, that crooked half grin." He exhaled shakily. "I didn't know about any of it." "She's 9, Susan said. "You mean to tell me for 9 years? You didn't wonder? You didn't reach out?" Michael's voice faltered. "Emma and I, after the breakup, I never heard from her again. I thought she moved on. She stopped answering my calls, my letters." Susan looked away bitterly. "She never stopped writing to you." Michael's eyes sharpened. "What?" Susan turned to him, tired but fierce. Emma sent emails. She left voicemails. She even wrote real letters. And when none of them got answered, she gave up. The words hit like a slap. I never received anything. Ask your brother, Susan said bitterly. David. He came by once. Said he was cleaning up your schedule. Wanted to help Emma move on. Told her she was a distraction. Then everything just stopped. Michael's face went cold. David intercepted them? Susan nodded. He thought she wasn't right for your family. She was just a girl from the South Side with no pedigree. Michael's hands curled into fists. His mind raced, remembering how back then David had offered to screen his emails during his promotion to CEO. The timing fit. She's sick, Susan added after a long pause. Michael turned toward her. Emma? She's in the hospital. Stage 3 lymphoma. She's stable, but weak. Doesn't want Lily to see her like that. Michael stared at the porch rail, pain spreading behind his ribs like a bruise. And Lily doesn't know I'm her father? Susan shook her head. Emma didn't want to confuse her. She said, if you were out there and you cared, you'd come. Michael swallowed hard. Where is she? He asked quietly. County Hospital, room 417. Visiting hours end at 7. He stood, suddenly aware of the setting sun stretching across the porch floor. Susan looked up at him. Michael, she said gently, she's been through a lot. Don't go in there making promises unless you mean to keep them. He met her eyes. I intend to. She stared at him for a long moment, then gave a single, slow nod. As he walked back toward the car, the drawing in his pocket rustled. Lily's sketch of him, crooked smile and all, beneath the words, thanks for stopping. He slid into the back seat and tapped the driver's shoulder. County Hospital, now. The engine hummed to life, but inside Michael everything was suddenly still. That drawing, that smile, that name. How much had he missed? The hospital hallway stretched in both directions, quiet but not peaceful. Michael Reed stood outside room 417, the air thick with disinfectant and nerves, the folded sketch from Lily still pressed against his chest like a second heartbeat. He hadn't knocked yet. What if she didn't want to see him? What if her face held more pain than warmth? He drew a slow breath, then finally, gently, rapped twice on the way only time could make it. He had his pencil case out and a worn notepad beside him, the kind grocery clerks used to scribble delivery addresses. Daniel stepped inside cautiously, as if entering sacred ground. You busy? He asked gently. Noah looked up. Just organizing my route for tomorrow. Daniel smiled and pulled out the chair opposite him. You still delivering? Noah shrugged. Ms. Gomez needs her milk early, and Mr. Tang can't lift anything heavy. Mom says, if we can help, we help. There was something in his tone, quiet pride. It reminded Daniel of his own father, before the Carter name became more important than kindness. After a moment, Noah reached into his backpack and pulled out a folded sheet. I made this today, he said, not quite meeting Daniel's eyes. For you. Daniel unfolded it carefully. It was an old delivery list, names and addresses written in a boy's looping scrawl, but one name stood out. Daniel Carter, it read, and next to it, in a different pen, underlined twice, was one word, family. Daniel didn't speak right away. His throat felt tight. He ran his fingers over the ink like it was something sacred. Noah finally asked, Do you really want to be my dad? Or are you just here because you feel bad? Daniel met his gaze, voice steady but low. I don't feel bad, Noah. I feel ashamed. I should have known. I should have fought harder, but I'm not here for guilt. I'm here because I want to earn that word you wrote. Noah studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Okay, you get a trial run. Daniel laughed quietly. Fair enough. From the doorway, Rachel watched. Her arms were folded, but her eyes were soft. Later that night, she and Daniel sat on the stoop under a flickering street lamp. The neighborhood buzzed with the distant traffic and the hum of old AC units clinging to windows. I don't expect you to forgive me, Daniel said quietly. Rachel glanced at him. Forgiveness isn't the problem, Daniel. Trust is. He nodded, not defending himself. She continued, but I saw the way he looked at you tonight, and the way you held that paper. You weren't faking that. He smiled faintly. It's been a long time since something mattered more than my company. Rachel leaned back, looking up at the stars barely visible through the city haze. You know, he started that delivery list when he was 6. Said he wanted to be like the guys who showed up rain or shine. Said he wanted people to count on him. Daniel glanced down at the paper again. He's already someone I admire. Inside, Noah sat by the window, watching them talk. He didn't hear the words, but he saw something he hadn't seen before. His mother relaxed, laughing a little, and Daniel not rushing off, not checking a watch. Just staying. Noah took his pencil and wrote one more name at the bottom of the list. His own. Then he drew a tiny house around the 3 names. In the morning, the hearing would resume. Clara would strike again. The board would question Daniel's judgment. The press would circle like vultures. But tonight, in a small apartment in the Bronx, a boy, his mother, and a CEO-turned-father built something far stronger than any company. A beginning. The echo of the courtroom still lingered in Daniel's ears. The sound of the gavel, the sharp, measured voices of lawyers, and the flickering glances from the judge had all faded now. But what stayed with him was Noah. The way his son looked at him before they left. Not confused, not hesitant, just hopeful. Daniel stood outside the courthouse, hands shoved in his coat pockets, watching the traffic pass. The world felt quieter, like something deep had shifted. A new kind of responsibility weighed on him, one he wasn't trying to escape anymore. He wasn't just a CEO making decisions. He was a father being entrusted with a fragile, young heart. Inside a nearby cafe, Rachel sat with Noah, a cocoa mug warming his small hands. The boy looked up when Daniel stepped in, his expression cautious but calm. Rachel glanced at Daniel. Her eyes, though soft, still held history, both the kind that wounds and the kind that remembers love once real. Daniel sat across from them, unbuttoning his coat as if shedding an old version of himself. Rachel spoke first, gently. Noah knows. The judge's words made it clear, but this isn't over tea and congratulations, Daniel. I know, he said quietly, looking at his son. This isn't about winning, it's about showing up. Noah tilted his head. So, now what? Daniel paused, then pulled something from his inside pocket, a folded piece of paper. Worn, smudged at the corners, he slid it across to Noah. The boy opened it slowly. It was the original delivery sheet, his old grocery route, every name and address handwritten. Except now, at the bottom in Daniel's neat, unsure script, were 3 words. Home is here. Noah blinked quickly, and a flush crept up his cheeks. Rachel saw the note and swallowed hard. Her voice softened. He made that list by himself last year. Said it helped. Another, 2 weeks later, marked urgent. Then another, months later, with a single line. You should know I'm keeping the name, and I'm keeping something else too. Michael's breath hitched. He opened the messages, one by one. Each was a piece of a life he'd never known. Emma telling him she was pregnant, that she was scared, that she wanted him to choose, not be forced. Then heartbreak, her confusion over the silence, her resolve to raise Lily alone. The weight of it crashed over him like a wave. David had read them, every single one, and deleted them. Michael leaned back, his eyes closed, fists clenched. For all his business acumen, he had been blind to the one betrayal that truly mattered, the one that had cost him his family. The next morning, he sat in the boardroom of Reed Logistics, facing his assistant, Megan. The skyline of Chicago shimmered behind them. "I need you to do something," he said, quietly but firmly. "I want a full log of all administrative changes to my email account in the last 10 years, especially from my brother." Megan blinked, confused. "Sir, David handles all internal systems." "Not anymore." She nodded slowly, sensing the shift in his tone. That afternoon, Michael drove through the West Side again. The streets here weren't like his glass-wrapped high-rise world. They were cracked, sun-bleached, and real. Life moved slower, more honestly. He pulled up a block from the lemonade stand. Lily was there, wearing the same oversized baseball cap from before. She was stacking cups, humming a little tune to herself, her braids swinging with each motion. Michael approached carefully. She looked up, startled, then smiled politely. "Hi again," she said. He smiled. "Still the best lemonade on the block?" "Probably the only lemonade on the block," she said with a shrug. "Want to try it again?" "I was hoping to," he replied, "if it's okay." She poured a cup and handed it to him. He dropped a $5 bill into the jar. She raised an eyebrow. "You sure? Most people give me one." "I think your smile's worth $5, he said sincerely. She grinned, bashful, then looked at him curiously. "You're not from around here, huh?" "No," he said softly, "but I think maybe I was supposed to be." She tilted her head. "That's a weird thing to say." Michael chuckled, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the sketch she gave him. "I kept this." Her face lit up. "You did?" "I did. It meant a lot to me." Lily looked at him carefully, her eyes narrowing just slightly. "Are you, like, someone important?" Michael hesitated. "Not in the way you think." There was a pause. Then she said, gently, "You don't have to buy lemonade to make people feel better. Sometimes just listening is enough." Michael's eyes stung. This little girl, his daughter, without knowing who he was, already saw through him. "I'll remember that," he whispered. As he walked back to his car, cup in hand, he passed a flower stand at the corner. Without thinking, he bought a small bouquet of daisies, Emma's favorite. He didn't know if it was too late to give them to her. But it was never too late to start telling the truth. The lemonade stand was still there the next morning, tucked beside the flower shop near Roosevelt and Halsted. The makeshift sign swayed in the breeze. Fresh lemonade, 50C. Michael sat in his car across the street longer than he should have, sipping burnt coffee and watching her, Lily. That tiny burst of joy in a yellow sundress and red sneakers. The way she waved to every passing dog, the way she added a sprig of mint to each cup like it mattered. Her movements were confident, proud, like she wasn't just selling lemonade but running an empire. And that smile. It was his. Michael finally got out of the car, his heart pacing like he was about to pitch to a boardroom of billionaires. But this was scarier. He walked up to the stand slowly. Lily noticed, looked up, and gave him a polite customer smile. "Hi again," Michael said gently. "Business good today?" "Better than yesterday," Lily replied, tossing her braid behind her shoulder. "Want a cup?" He smiled and nodded. "Yes, please." She handed it over. $1. It's special now. I added strawberries. Michael chuckled softly and pulled out a crisp bill. "Keep the change." Lily tilted her head. "That's a lot of change." He paused. "I guess I just admire what you're doing." She looked at him for a moment, then turned back to rearrange the cups. "You don't have to pretend. Grown-ups always feel bad when they see kids working. It's not pity," he said quietly. "It's respect." She looked back at him, unconvinced. Michael hesitated. I was wondering if you ever need anything." Books, art supplies, anything for school. Lily narrowed her eyes. Are you with one of those charities? No, he said quickly. Not at all. Then why are you here again? She asked plainly, her voice neither rude nor welcoming, just guarded. Michael breathed in slowly. Because I wanted to talk to you. I think I might know someone close to you. She studied him in silence. You know Grandma? He shook his head. No, but I'd like to. Lily folded her arms. Look, mister, I don't need a new friend. I don't need help. I've got school and I've got this stand. And I've got my grandma and my mom. Even if she's sick, she's still my mom. Michael felt the sting in her words, deep and sharp. I'm not trying to take anything away, he said gently. I just want to understand. Maybe help, if you let me. Her lips thinned. You're rich, right? You look like it. My grandma says rich people only help when there's cameras. Michael knelt down so they were eye level. She's not wrong, he said, his voice low. But not all of us are like that. Lily looked down at her shoes. I don't know what you want. Michael's voice trembled. Neither do I. I just saw your smile, and I couldn't forget it. That startled her. For the first time, her expression softened, ever so slightly. Are you a dad? She asked softly. Michael blinked. I'm not sure, he said honestly. Her brows furrowed. That's a weird answer. Yeah, he admitted, but I hope someday it won't be. They sat in silence for a few seconds. A breeze passed. The mint leaves rustled in the jar. A siren blared somewhere far off. Then Lily handed him another cup. This one's free, she said, but only this time. Michael took it like it was made of glass. Thanks, he said, voice thick. She nodded, then turned back to her stand. You should talk to Grandma. She's the boss. Michael stood there for a moment, the plastic cup cool in his hand, and watched her return to her tiny empire, mixing, pouring, smiling at strangers. He took a sip. It was too sweet, a little warm, but it was the best thing he'd tasted in years. And, just beneath the rim of the cup, she had scribbled with a pink marker, Lily's lemonade, made with love. It wasn't trust, not yet. But it was something. And now, he needed to find Susan. Someone who might still have the answers he never knew he lost. The hospital room smelled faintly of antiseptic and wilted flowers. Sunlight tried to break through the blinds but failed, casting the room in a grayish gloom that seemed to mirror the weight in Michael's chest. He stood at the doorway, his hand resting on the frame, staring at the woman he had once imagined building a life with, Emma. She looked smaller somehow, curled in the stiff hospital bed, her cheeks pale, but her eyes, those eyes, still fierce. Her hair, now peppered with strands of gray, framed her face with the same softness he remembered from a decade ago. In her hand, she clutched a drawing. It was Lily's. He could tell from the uneven crayon lines and the proud scrawl of her name at the bottom. He cleared his throat gently. Emma, he said softly. She turned her head, slowly, warily. At first, confusion furrowed her brows. Then came the realization. Then the sting. Michael, she whispered, the name falling from her lips like a forgotten prayer. You finally found your way here. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. The silence that settled between them was not peaceful. It trembled with the weight of things unsaid. I didn't know, he began, his voice cracking. Emma, I swear to you, I didn't know about Lily. I didn't even know where you were. She laughed bitterly, quietly. Don't stand there and lie to me, not now. Michael stepped closer, pulling a small envelope from his coat pocket. Emma's email, the one David had intercepted and deleted. He handed it to her. I found this in David's old company archive folder. It was never opened. He made sure I never saw it. Emma took it with trembling hands. Her eyes scanned the words she had written all those years ago, her throat tightening as the memory of that desperate night came rushing back. "I begged you," she whispered. "I begged you to come. I told you I was pregnant. I thought—" Her voice broke. "I thought you didn't want us." Michael knelt beside her bed, gently placing his hand over hers. "I didn't know, and I'll never forgive myself for letting someone else silence your voice, but I'm here now, and I want to make it right. I want to be in Lily's life." Emma's expression softened, but the pain was still there, etched deep. "She's brilliant," she said. "Funny, strong-willed. You'd be proud of her." Her lips trembled. "She thinks you're just another rich man who felt sorry for her lemonade stand." Michael's heart twisted. "I want her to know me, Emma. Not as a benefactor, but as her father. I missed 9 years, and I don't want to miss another moment." Emma looked away, staring at the drawing still in her lap. A crayon sun beamed down on the 3 stick figures. One tall, one medium, one small, smiling beneath a crooked lemon tree. "You think it's that easy?" she asked, her voice low. "You walk back into our lives and suddenly everything is okay?" "No," Michael said. "It won't be easy. I don't expect forgiveness overnight. I don't even know if I deserve it. But I promise you, I'll earn it." Every single day, a tear slipped down Emma's cheek. She didn't wipe it away. "I needed you, Michael," she said. "Back then, I was scared, alone, and now, I'm tired." Michael swallowed hard. "Then let me carry some of that weight. Let me help." The machines beside her beeped softly. Outside, a nurse passed by, but the room felt sealed off, sacred. Emma stared at him, searching for truth in his eyes. "I don't know what Lily will decide," she said. "She's her own person. But if you want a chance, I won't stand in your way." Michael nodded, tears in his own eyes now. "Thank you for that." He stood, gently kissed her forehead, and turned to leave. At the door, he paused. "Emma," he said quietly, "that drawing, the one in your hand, she drew that for you?" Emma looked down, then gave a faint smile. "No," she whispered. She said it was for someone she hadn't met yet, but hoped would come. Michael blinked back the tears as he stepped into the hallway. The walls no longer felt sterile. They echoed with possibility. Outside the hospital, his phone buzzed. David, Michael didn't answer. Not yet. He had someone more important to see first. Would Lily even open the door? The scent of antiseptic lingered in Michael's shirt as he stepped out of the hospital. Emma's words still echoed in his ears, bitter, wounded, and laced with years of pain. He had promised her he would make things right, but that promise would be tested sooner than he ever imagined. The next morning, his lawyer, Jordan Blackwell, called. "Michael," he said carefully, "we just received a court filing. David's petitioning for custody of Lily." Michael gripped the phone tighter. "What? On what grounds?" Jordan's voice stayed calm, professional. "He claims you're emotionally unstable, that your relationship with Lily is new and superficial. He also submitted statements about your obsessive work habits and lack of parental history." Michael's chest tightened. "He's trying to erase me before I've even had the chance to be her father." "And that," Jordan replied, "is exactly how we'll fight back." Later that day, Michael sat alone in his office. The framed photo of a mountain summit stared back at him, his company's flagship project, the one he'd led from scratch. On his desk sat Lily's drawing, still folded neatly. A lemonade stand under a bright sun, 3 stick figures holding hands. Family. A soft knock on the door broke his trance. Karen, his assistant, stepped in with a grim look. "There's something you should see." She handed him a tabloid. The headline screamed, "Is this the man to raise a child? Inside the turmoil of CEO Michael Reed." Below it, a photo of Michael leaving the hospital visibly shaken. Michael exhaled slowly, almost bitterly. "David's pulling every string he has." Karen nodded. "There's more. His team's been contacting the board, questioning your leadership during the custody matter." A long silence followed. Then Michael whispered, more to himself than to her, "He doesn't care about Lily. He just wants to win." That night, Michael drove to Susan's house. He parked outside, unsure of what to say or even why he had come. But before he could knock, the porch light flicked on. Susan stepped outside, pulling her cardigan tight against the wind. "You look tired," she said gently. "I am," he admitted. "Susan, David's coming after her. He's using every weapon in the book." She studied him. "You knew he'd do this the moment you stepped into Lily's life, didn't you?" Michael nodded. "But I didn't think he'd sink this low." "He sees her as a pawn," Susan said softly. "Emma and I always feared he might. That's why we kept our distance." Michael looked up, his voice unsteady. "Then help me protect her. Please. She's all I've got left to do right by." Susan looked past him to the living room window where Lily sat drawing at the table. "She's worth fighting for." Michael stepped inside. Lily looked up, surprised, then offered a wary smile. "Hey!" He approached slowly, kneeling beside her. "What you drawing?" She showed him. Another lemonade stand, this one labeled with the word family above it in bright pink. "That's a good word," he said, voice catching. She tilted her head. "You look sad." "I'm a little scared," he admitted. "Why?" He hesitated, then, gently, "Because someone's trying to keep us apart. Someone who doesn't understand what it means to care." Lily looked down at her drawing, then back at him. "Are you going to go away again?" Michael shook his head, eyes glassy. "Not if I can help it." She nodded solemnly, then handed him the drawing. "Then you better keep this." As Michael took it, Susan stepped behind him, a quiet strength in her voice. "We'll stand with you, Michael, but you need to be prepared. David has resources, lawyers, influence." Michael rose to his feet. "I don't need to outspend him. I just need to prove to the court that I'm the one who shows up." That night, he returned home and opened his laptop. The email system still held fragments, deleted messages, metadata, old calendar notes. He stared at the last one Emma ever sent him before everything went silent. He remembered how it never reached him, how it vanished, and how David had always brushed off his concerns. A slow, bitter realization settled in. David didn't just block a message. He erased a family. Michael's hand hovered over the keyboard. A quiet fury stirred in him, but beneath it, something steadier had awakened. Resolve. Michael stared out the window of his high-rise office, the skyline of Chicago bathed in a golden haze. But he wasn't seeing the city. His eyes were fixed on a moment that lived only in memory. Lily handing him that crayon drawing with the word family scribbled across the top in pink. Her small hands trembling, her eyes hopeful. And now, David was trying to tear that hope away. The boardroom behind him buzzed with urgency. Today was the final approval meeting for Project Astra, the billion-dollar defense contract that could secure the company's dominance for decades. His name was on every blueprint. His vision powered every proposal. But Michael hadn't heard a word in 10 minutes. "Mr. Reed," one of the partners said gently, "we need your signature to finalize before the deadline." Michael turned, his face calm, but his heart torn. He walked to the table, looked down at the contract, then slowly closed the folder. "I won't be signing this," he said, voice low but steady. Gasps echoed around the room. "Michael," a board member began, "I'm stepping away from the project. Effective immediately." The room erupted. "What are you talking about? Have you lost your mind?" Michael raised a hand, silencing them. "This project will survive without me, but there's a little girl out there who won't." He stepped out without another word. As the elevator descended, he leaned back, exhaling. That choice would cost him everything he'd spent years building, but for the first time in a long while, it felt like the right mountain to climb. At home, his lawyer Jordan was waiting. The kitchen table was covered in court papers. "She's filing for full guardianship, Michael. Emma's listed you as a potential co-guardian, but David's legal team is pushing to deem you emotionally unstable." Michael rubbed his eyes. "He's banking on the fact that I've never raised a child, that I've always put work first." Jordan nodded. "He's playing the long game. You stepping away from the project could help your case, if we make the right impression in court." Michael sat across from him, then slowly unfolded Lily's drawing and placed it in the center of the table. "She gave this to me," he said quietly. "I want to fight, not just to win, but to earn that word she wrote." Jordan looked down at the drawing, then back up. "Then we go all in." 3 days later, Michael took the witness stand. His suit was modest, his voice calm, but his words carried weight. "I didn't know I had a daughter for 9 years," he said, meeting the judge's gaze. "That's not something I'll ever forgive myself for, but I won't let it define the rest of her life." "Why now?" the judge asked gently. Michael looked down, then held up Lily's drawing. "Because this is what she handed me. Not a contract, not a test, just a cup of lemonade and a picture that said, 'Family.'" He swallowed. "She already believes I belong. I'm here to prove she's right." There was a hush in the courtroom. Even David's attorney looked momentarily rattled. Later, as they exited, reporters swarmed him with questions. "Mr. Reed, are you really giving up your empire for a child you just met?" Michael paused, then offered a tired smile. "I didn't just meet her. I finally saw her." That night, Susan called. "I saw the news," she said softly. "Let me guess," he said, leaning on his windowsill. "You think I've lost my mind too?" "No," she whispered. "I think, for the first time, Emma might see the man she fell in love with." Michael closed his eyes. He could still picture Emma in that hospital bed, turning away from him, hurt layered under every word. He had promised her redemption. Now he was betting everything to deliver it. Back at the hospital, Emma's condition had worsened. Susan sat by her bed when she stirred. "He's fighting," Susan whispered. "He walked away from everything." Emma's eyes fluttered open. "He did what?" "He chose Lily over his company." Emma turned toward the window, the evening light soft on her face. A single tear slipped down. "Maybe," she said, voice cracking. "He really means it this time." Later that week, a letter arrived at Michael's door. A child's handwriting, no return address. He opened it slowly. Inside was a drawing of 3 lemonade cups, each one labeled Dad, Me, and Mom. At the bottom, in big, bold letters, "I hope we can all sit at the same table someday." Michael held the letter against his chest. He didn't cry. He just whispered, "Someday, sweetheart. I'll make sure of it." The courtroom still echoed in Michael's ears. Every word he spoke on that stand replayed in his mind like a promise he couldn't afford to break. But it wasn't the judge's reaction or the glares from David's corner that haunted him. It was Lily's drawing. 3 lemonade cups. Dad. Me. Mom. At the bottom, in those shaky 9-year-old letters, the word that mattered most. Family. That word had found a home in Michael's chest, carved deep enough to hurt, and today he was about to find out if she meant it. The afternoon sun cast a golden light over the quiet Chicago park. Michael sat alone at a bench near the lemonade stand, which Lily and Susan had set up beneath a faded pink umbrella. Susan gave him a subtle nod from behind the folding table, then stepped away, giving them space. Lily stood there, wearing an oversized apron, her hair in a slightly crooked braid. Her eyes met Michael's cautiously, searching his face for signs of truth or pretense. "I saved this for you," she said, walking over slowly. In her small hands she held a paper cup, the same kind they'd been handing to strangers for $2 all day. But this one was different. Drawn on the side was a heart, and inside that heart, one word, written in bubble letters and outlined in glitter pen. Family. Michael took it gently. His throat tightened. "Lily, I know who you are," she interrupted softly, not unkindly. Michael blinked. "I Googled you," she added, almost apologetically. "Grandma helped. You're famous." He chuckled under his breath, then grew quiet again. "That must have been a lot to find out." Lily nodded. "You were in pictures with big buildings, suits, other important people." She looked down at the cup in his hands. "But you weren't in any pictures with me." Those words cut deeper than any courtroom cross-examination. Michael's voice faltered. "You're right, and I can't undo that. But I can promise you this, if you ever let me in, there won't be a picture going forward that doesn't have you in it." She looked up at him again, this time with a different kind of gaze, one that cracked open a door. "Then drink it," she said, pushing the cup closer. "All of it." He smiled through misty eyes and raised the cup like a toast. "To beginnings." He drank it all in one go, savoring the warmth that had nothing to do with the lemonade. She laughed, actually laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound he'd heard in years. "Now you're officially part of the stand," she said. "Is that right?" "Yep," she grinned. "It's the rule." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "Then I guess I need to earn my apron." Later that evening, as they packed up the stand together, Michael knelt beside Lily while she boxed the leftover lemons. "You know," he began gently, "I didn't come into your life just to buy a cup of lemonade." She didn't answer right away. He continued, "I came because I saw your smile, and it was mine. And then I saw your spirit, and that was all Emma." She turned to look at him. "She still loves you, you know, even if she's mad." Michael's breath caught. "Did she say that?" Lily shook her head. "She doesn't have to." He sat in stunned silence. Then she pulled something from her pocket, a folded piece of notebook paper. "I made this last night," she said shyly, handing it to him. He opened it. Another drawing. This time it was 3 stick figures holding hands. The one in the middle had a crayon crown on its head. "That's me," she giggled, "because I'm the boss." Michael laughed, genuinely this time. "Mom's on the left, you're on the right, and we're all standing behind the lemonade stand." He stared at the image, a lump rising in his throat again. "This is the life I want." "Then you better fight hard," Lily said, "because Uncle David doesn't want it to happen." Michael looked at her, surprised. "You know about that?" She nodded solemnly. "I'm 9, not 5. He gave a soft chuckle, then tucked the drawing into his jacket. "Don't worry, I'm not backing down." She paused. "Promise?" He took her hand. "Promise." As night fell, Emma sat in her hospital bed, a soft smile on her lips as she watched the news replay courtroom footage of Michael walking out, head held high, no press statement, just purpose. Susan walked in quietly with a tray of soup. Emma spoke without turning. "He's changing." Susan nodded. "So is she." Emma took the remote, clicked the TV off, and whispered, "Let's see if it lasts." The drawing from Lily stayed tucked in Michael's wallet, folded like a small, sacred promise. Every time he pulled it out, it reminded him not of the courtroom victory, but of the quiet acceptance in Lily's voice when she whispered, "Promise?" He'd kept that promise, and now he had another one to keep, with Emma. It had been 2 days since the hearing, and though the custody battle wasn't fully over, the tides had clearly turned. Lily had chosen him, the court had leaned in his favor, and David's false accusations were beginning to crack under the weight of truth. But Emma, she remained a fortress. That morning, Michael stood outside her hospital room, a small bouquet of wildflowers in hand. Not the perfect, curated arrangements he used to send clients. These were hand-picked from the modest garden behind the hospital. Real, imperfect, breathing color. He knocked softly on the door, peering in. Emma sat by the window in a pale robe, her IV line dangling loosely. Her hair, though thinner now, caught the sunlight like it used to. She didn't turn at first, but when she did, her expression was calm, measured, not cold. "You didn't have to bring flowers," she said, her voice quiet. Michael stepped in gently, placing the bouquet on the bedside table. "They're not from a florist. I picked them myself. Thought maybe something real would matter more." Emma looked at him, eyes scanning his face for sincerity. "Real is complicated, Michael." He nodded. "I'm learning that." There was a long pause. The air between them held the weight of years, not just of absence, but of silence, blame, longing. She finally broke it. "Lily told me what she gave you." Michael smiled softly. "She made it very clear I had to drink every drop. I've never had lemonade that sweet." Emma's gaze drifted out to the window again. "She's a good judge of people. Better than I was." "Emma," he began, moving closer but careful not to cross her space. "I didn't know. David, I know what he did," she interrupted, her tone sharper now. "Susan showed me the emails he deleted, the ones I wrote when I first found out I was pregnant. I begged him to let you know." Her eyes finally met his again, glassy with hurt. "He erased me, and you never even asked why I vanished." Michael's voice trembled. "Because I thought you chose to vanish. I thought I wasn't good enough, or too late, or—" "You weren't," she said, more gently now. "But you didn't fight to find out either." The silence this time was heavier. "I was hurt, Emma, but I should have fought harder. I should have looked past the surface. I didn't. That's on me." She studied him again, slower this time. "You've changed." "I had to," he said quietly. "Lily changed me. Seeing her, hearing her laugh, she's everything I didn't know I was missing." A tear slid down her cheek, unexpected. She didn't brush it away. "She reminds me of you," he added. "The fierce way she protects people, the way she believes in second chances." Emma laughed under her breath, hoarse but honest. "She got the bossiness from me, too." Michael smiled. "It's a good thing. She'll need it, with me as a dad." They sat in silence for a while, letting the stillness fill with something warmer than regret, a tentative peace. Emma reached for the flowers and brought them to her lap. "They're pretty, not perfect, but pretty." "Like us," he said. She looked at him, amused. "We're not a bouquet, Michael." "No," he said. "We're a root. Buried, but still alive." Her lips parted, as if to speak, but instead she turned toward the window again, letting the light bathe her face. After a beat, she said, "You can be Lily's father. She needs you. Just go slow." Michael nodded, his voice barely more than a breath. "Of course." "And Michael?" "Yes?" She turned her eyes back to his, vulnerable but steady. "Don't promise me anything you can't keep." He held her gaze. "Then I won't make promises. I'll show up." As he rose to leave, Emma called out softly, "You forgot your drawing." He turned back. "I keep it close, right where it hurts the most." She didn't respond, but her eyes said everything. Outside the room, Michael leaned against the hallway wall, the wildflowers, the drawing, the taste of lemonade still lingering in his memory. He wasn't just winning back a daughter. He was slowly earning the right to be the man Emma could trust again. The courtroom had fallen quiet, the kind of quiet that follows a storm, not because peace had returned, but because the damage had been revealed. Michael sat at the plaintiff's table, Lily's drawing tucked in his pocket like armor. On the table in front of him sat the printed email chain. Recovered, restored, undeniable. Beside him, his attorney leaned over and whispered, "They just submitted the metadata. The timestamps confirm the emails were deleted from Emma's inbox by someone inside your company." Michael's chest tightened. His eyes flicked across the room to David, who sat stone-faced, his usual smug composure cracking. For years, his brother had spun stories, protecting the Carter-Reed legacy, shielding Michael from unworthy relationships, steering the company with a firm grip. But it wasn't loyalty, it was control, and now it was unraveling. The judge cleared his throat, adjusting his glasses as he reviewed the newly submitted evidence. "It appears," he began, "that Miss Emma Granger did indeed attempt to contact Mr. Reed through multiple emails during her pregnancy. These messages, according to forensics, were intercepted and permanently deleted from Mr. Reed's inbox by Mr. David Reed using administrative access." A soft gasp echoed from the back of the courtroom. Susan, Emma's mother, clutched her handbag tighter. Emma sat 2 rows behind, her frail body upright, but her eyes brimming with unshed tears. Lily, too, young to grasp all the words, clung to her small pink thermos and looked from face to face, sensing the shift in energy. David stood abruptly. "Your Honor, this is absurd. I was managing communications for the company. Emma was unstable. You can't trust. You deleted personal correspondence from a woman trying to notify Mr. Reed that he was going to be a father," the judge said, voice rising, "and then used that concealment to build a case against him as an absent and irresponsible man." Michael rose slowly. "Your Honor," he said, his voice steady but thick with emotion, "I let myself believe my brother's lies. I let pride keep me from questioning what I should have. But I'm here now, and I won't stop fighting for my daughter." The judge nodded. "Your commitment is noted and appreciated." Outside the courtroom, cameras had begun to gather. The press had picked up rumors about a high-profile custody battle involving the Carter-Reed heir. Michael didn't care about headlines, not anymore. What mattered was walking out that door and holding his daughter's hand without doubt or fear. He found Emma in the hallway afterward, her hand resting on the cool railing for balance. "You heard everything?" he asked softly. She nodded. Michael stepped closer, not too close. "I never wanted it to go this far. I would have stepped away if you'd asked me to, but I couldn't let him twist who I am to her." Emma's lips trembled slightly. "He stole a decade from us, Michael. I know. He told me you didn't want her, that you laughed at the idea of a child with me." Michael closed his eyes for a moment, the ache in his chest pressing deeper. "I would have moved heaven and earth, Emma. I would have raised her from day one." Silence passed between them. Then Emma reached into her purse and pulled out an old photo, creased at the edges. It was a sonogram. "I kept this," she whispered, "even when I hated you." Michael took it gently, his fingers brushing hers. "Thank you for not letting her grow up bitter." Emma gave a small, tired smile. "She's got your stubbornness, but she's mine too." He tucked the photo into his pocket, beside Lily's drawing. 2 truths finally back in his hands. That night, back at the office, Michael stood alone in the boardroom. David's nameplate had been removed from the executive floor. Security escorted him out hours earlier after the board called an emergency vote. The trust fund had frozen. The leadership reins were handed over to a transitional committee, one that Michael now led, not as a CEO driven by profit, but as a father with a new mission. He stared out the window at the Chicago skyline. Below, city lights twinkled like tiny promises. He pulled out the drawing again. Lily's hand-scribbled lemonade stand, the words, "Family is sweet," drawn in purple crayon across the bottom. His phone buzzed. A message from Emma. "Lily wants to show you her new recipe tomorrow, if you're free." Michael smiled. He replied, "I'll bring the lemons." The summer sun cast a golden glow over the small corner lot just outside Lincoln Park. The old sidewalk was freshly chalked with yellow arrows and stick figures. A handmade sign, strung between two bright umbrellas, read, "Lily's Lemonade. 1 cup can change a life." Michael stood quietly behind the counter, not in a suit, but in a plain gray t-shirt, sleeves rolled up. Next to him, Lily wore an oversized apron with lemon slices all over it and a ponytail that bounced when she moved. Emma sat under the shade, bundled in a light shawl, smiling warmly as she watched them work together. It had been 3 weeks since the courtroom gavel fell. 3 weeks since the truth about David unraveled and Michael was officially recognized as Lily's father, and now, 3 weeks into healing what had been lost. Michael handed a cup of lemonade to a little boy whose shoes were duct-taped together. "On the house," Michael said, kneeling to the boy's eye level. "Come back for a refill, okay?" The boy nodded. "Thanks, mister." He ran off with a grin. Lily tugged Michael's arm. "Daddy," she whispered shyly, testing the word again. "Can I give the next kid one of our lemon cookies too?" Michael looked down at her and smiled, eyes stinging. "Absolutely." Behind them, on the brick wall, a framed photo hung in a simple wooden frame. It was Lily's drawing, her original lemonade stand sketch, but now colored in. Below it, the words she had scrawled weeks ago still read, "Family is sweet." Emma approached slowly, her pace still careful from the treatments, but her spirit stronger. "I brought the donation jar," she said softly. "Remember how we talked about giving part of today's sales to the food bank?" Michael nodded. "Lily already set some aside. She said she wants to help kids who don't have a grandma like Susan." Emma chuckled, brushing a hand over Lily's hair. She's always had a big heart. The three of them worked in rhythm, refilling pitchers, greeting neighbors, listening to stories. Local news had caught wind of their story and even stopped by for an interview. But today wasn't about headlines. It was about something quieter, something permanent. Late that afternoon, Michael walked a few paces away and watched them from a distance. Lily giggling as she tried to squirt too much syrup into a cup, Emma laughing softly behind her. He pulled out his phone and opened a document titled Lily's Legacy Foundation. Plans for mobile lemonade carts staffed by local teens, nutrition classes for underfunded schools, proceeds directed to single-parent support programs. A quiet voice interrupted his thoughts. "Is this what you pictured? Years ago?" "Emma." Michael turned. "No, not even close." She waited, expression unreadable. "It's better," he added, his voice barely above a whisper. "I pictured boardrooms and exit deals. I never imagined sidewalk chalk and lemon peels. I never imagined—" He paused, eyes locking with hers. "Having a second chance." Emma looked at him long and hard. "You hurt me, Michael. Even if it wasn't your fault, it still hurt." "I know," he said, pain flickering in his eyes. "And I'll keep showing up, every day, even if all I get is a seat at her lemonade stand." Emma's gaze softened. "Then pull up a chair." He did. They sat in silence, just listening to Lily hum as she scribbled her name on a new sign. At one point, she turned to them and held up a crooked drawing, 3 stick figures, each holding a cup of lemonade. A tiny heart floated above their heads. She handed it to Michael and said, "This one's for the wall, okay?" He nodded, speechless, and placed it next to the first. By sunset, the table was empty, but their hearts were full. Neighbors waved goodbye. Kids left with sticky hands and bright smiles, and one family, once fractured, now stood whole again, stitched together not by blood alone, but by truth, trust, and a stand that sold more than lemonade. It sold hope. And as the last customer left, Lily looked up at her parents and asked, "Can we open another stand tomorrow? For the kids at the shelter?" Michael smiled, kneeling down. "We can open 100, Emma added, "but only if you promise to taste test every single cup." Lily beamed. "Deal." And with that, under the soft amber light of a Chicago evening, they packed up their things, together. A CEO, a mother, and a little girl who had once been just a stranger on the sidewalk, now the heart of it all. The end. But the legacy? Just beginning.